Hello, Bill here from Nostalgic Inclination, the channel dedicated to you, all creatives, artists, musicians, and otherwise. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you're returning, great to see you again. Today we have a totally radical show in store for you, and the challenge theme is the 1980s, and I will be doing a self-portrait caricature in that style. Why are you dressed like that? We're doing the 1980s, not the 1880s. Whoops. And I have a Baroque harpsichord piece completely prepared. Scrap it. Pick a number. 3. 1, 2, 3. Pick a color. Red. You're doing slow jam. Okay, cool. I'll use my saxophone. You don't have a saxophone. I have a saxophone right here in this box. There can't be a saxophone in that box. You'll just have to wait for the music segment to find out. Please like, subscribe, and let's get to it. Today we're working on a pretty fun project, a caricature drawing. I think it's every artist's rite of passage to do a self-portrait, and I think it's only appropriate that my self-portrait be a cartoon rather than a serious one. Listed on the screen are all the materials I use. Marker paper is smooth, and there's usually a smoother side, and I like to use the smoothest side. It helps with the blending. I start with the sketch. My caricature is going to be big head, small body type caricature, which is pretty ironic because my body is anything but small. When drawing glasses, it's important to draw them as a whole rather than one lens at a time to keep them aligned. While I sketch, I'd like to thank everybody who's been watching me so far on this journey. It's been fun making these videos, and I hope to continue to do it. I've received a ton of support from family, friends, and former teachers even. I would like to mention one of my inspiration YouTuber and artists. It's actually two people. This past summer when I was preparing for my first art show, I was scanning the internet looking for tips on how to do such a thing. I stumbled upon Raffi Was Here Studios. Raffi Was Here Studios is a YouTube page run by Raffi and Clee, a wonderful couple, both artists, both amazing people, both operating in limitless mediums of art, Raffi specializing in fine art paintings and Clee specializing in jewelry. Both of their artwork is stunning and amazing. But it's not just the artwork, it's their outlook on life that has been a real motivation to me. This past week, Raffi and Clee watched some of my videos and gave me great encouragement. For that, I thank them, and I will leave a link in the description of their YouTube page. Check it out, you'll be happy you did. There's something about fine lining that just puts me in my happy place. A sketch is like an idea or a plan, and the fine lining brings it into fruition, like building the frame of a house. I used to work at a major theme park, and I would always marvel at the caricature artists. They would create what was in my eyes a masterpiece in under 10 minutes without even doing an undersketch. I don't have that ability, but I'm not going to let that prevent me from making a piece of art that I'm very happy with. When making a caricature, it's important to use as few lines as possible, and the more lines you use, the older your caricature becomes. When drawing the hair, I use broken lines. It's easier, and it gives the illusion of an actual head of hair. I was only a child in the 80s, but I'm drawing myself as if I were an adult in the 80s. These days, I don't envision myself wearing a yellow tank top. But in the 80s, I'm sure I wore plenty of them. It's very debatable on whether my caricature looks like me, but I'm still very happy with the way that it's turning out. When erasing your undersketch, do so lightly as not to smudge your fine lining. After I erase it, I make final touches with the fine liner, connecting areas that I overlooked. When you're creating a piece of art, you get to determine how things look, what color things are, what shape things are, what size things are. It's all up to you. You are the creator. When using alcohol markers, always start with the light colors, blending over with darker colors, very similarly to watercolor painting. You'll notice I'm swatching the colors of the markers on a scrap piece of paper before putting it on my picture. This is akin to measuring twice and cutting once. You'd think I was a carpenter with all the construction references I'm dropping in this video, but I can assure you, I've never been a carpenter. I'm just looking for things to say, if I can be quite honest with you. It's important to leave white spots when doing marker illustrations. It's much harder to add highlights than it would be to do with a, say, acrylic painting. That said, there still are ways. For shadow and depth, we take the marker and go over the same area, adding a darker tone. My battery died when I was making the red lens, but I assure you, you miss nothing else, and it was the same as the blue lens, just a solid color. You'll notice with the hair, here's where I leave a lot of white spots for the shine. I start with the lighter color brown, and I'm going to add a darker color brown over top of it. When we were young, it was important to color in the picture right up to the lines, but it's not the same when doing caricature. You want to leave lots of space. We're going to use Faber-Castell Polychromos color pencils for details. Faber-Castell Polychromos are an oil-based pencil, which I prefer over the wax-based pencils, but some people swear by Prismacolor. My motto is use whatever makes you feel comfortable. Now I'm going to do the glasses, and I wear a very shiny reflective pair of stainless steel glasses, so I want to leave a lot of white spots to get that light reflection. I'm pretty satisfied with how they turned out. I made my lips a little too dark, like as if I'm wearing lipstick, which I would never do. You'll see now I'm using a colorless blender, which is just pure alcohol, which helps smooth the colors out and lighten things up. Also helps very much in the blending process. Here I'm going back over the skin tone, adding more color, more depth, more dimension. No caricature portrait would be complete without a corny, simple background, and mine will not be void of that, but you'll have to stay tuned to the final reveal to see what I decide to do. Here I put the final finishing touches on the face and the body, using a ruler and a white gel pen to put glare lines on the lenses. White colored pencil helps in a lot of blending situations. One more application of my flesh tone, and I think we should be in pretty good shape. Remember, wherever the light is coming from, there's always going to be shadow under the hairline, glasses, nose, lips, etc. Now we're getting closer to the finished product. If you have any questions on how to do such a thing, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Also, if you see something that I could be doing differently, also leave that in the comments. Stay tuned for the final reveal. For the music project, we start with an electric piano sound that comes straight out of the 80s. Now we're going to lay down a bass track. I use the Scarby bass by Native Instruments, which I love because you can play in articulations by holding the previous key down before moving to the next key to get a slide. as you'll see. The first time around I like to keep it simple, adding the licks the second time around. Now I'm going to add a simple intro. This piece of music is in the key of B minor, so I'm going to just sustain one F note on the bass, which is the fifth of the key, and I'm going to add a simple piano hook. Straight out of the 80s, I think that melody is in a clock. I can't take credit for it. Now for the percussion. I want that real chintzy 80s 808 drum sound. Most of my music has chintzy drums. But hey, what can I say? I build up the track, arranging as I go. We're having a late season storm and the wind is whipping. I hope it doesn't come over this voiceover. This is a mini saxophone made by a mom and pop operation in St. Petersburg, Florida. I got it several years back. Very inexpensive, but very effective. Anytime we can use an actual physical instrument rather than a digital VST plugin or a keyboard saxophone, it's always a plus. Not saying anything against digital instruments. I love them and rely on them, but you can always sweeten your production with a physical instrument. And this gives you good practice. It has an actual reed and a mouthpiece, a tenor saxophone mouthpiece. It sounds amazing, and let me just play you a few notes. Thank you for watching, and now for the final reveal.